Good morning, dear folks. We are here for talking with friend Özcan Çetin about Middle East, mainly, I think, within Syria. It's okay?
Yeah, yeah. Hello, everyone, and hello, Juan. First of all, Merry Christmas to everyone. And I know some are celebrating Christmas right now, and some my Orthodox friends gonna celebrate after the in January 15th, if I'm not, or 6th, if I'm not mistaken. So in a nutshell, Happy Christmas and Merry Christmas, everyone.
Some celebrated also Hanukkah.
Mm-hmm.
And
What's that?
Hanukkah.
Hanukkah. Okay, yeah. It was Hanukkah. Yeah. Happy Hanukkah, everyone. Then.
Probably most people disconnected from Syria. Say there is one guy there stabilizing the country, and we can focus on every single conflict that is most hot in the moment. Probably watching what happens in the Caribbean with Venezuela, or a little bit watching what happened in Thailand within Cambodia. But in Syria it still happens things, and we can see it some like the by parts, Jack the Ripper will say that way. The center, Damascus, what happens with the regime. I hope not having problems with the idea of north, south, east, west, and the idea within the former Al-Hulani, the regime, north, the Kurds, what happens with them, south, the Druze people, east, what happens with Iraq, Iran, and west, what happens not only with the Druze can be with Israel, but with west we can see what happened with Cyprus, the coast, the sea, the delimitation of the watermark. It's a complex scenario.
Yeah. Well, Juan, if you remember last year, it was almost same days, right? December 2024. We had a conversation on YouTube, and it was just right after collapse of Assad regime. And I predicted that there will be more conflict in Syria, unfortunately, and my prediction came true, actually. So right now we have conflict, like you say, in east with Kurds, in the west with Alevi minority, in south with Druze people, north not stable, actually. Even though the northern part of Syria looks like to be under control of Jolani government, actually it's not, because Syrian government, the new government itself, is not united. Itself is not a combined, united one. Because the northern part of Syria is under control of Turkish affiliated groups, SMA, Syrian Nation, SNA, Syrian National Army, and south, Damascus and surrounding are under control of Jolani. So even the government itself is divided. So this divided government wants to get Syria a united country, which doesn't work, actually. It's not working right now. And what happened? Let's have a look what happened in March, early March. An agreement, actually an accord signed between the Kurdish forces, SDF, Syrian Democratic Forces, and Jolani. And of course, Turkey is mediator, and with the USA. Turkey is pushing the Kurds to accept maximalist and like unrealistic demands, like laying down all the arms, surrendering to Jolani government, leaving the oil fields to Turkish affiliated groups, and so on. Leaving the Deir ez-Zor, for example, which is very critical and strategic place. Of course, Kurds will not accept that, right? It's not because they are very strong. It's not because they are not superpower, but they have achievements. Since beginning of the Syrian Revolution or Syrian Civil War, however you call it, even during Assad reign. The Kurds gained a lot of achievements, a lot of power, and they nail it. They really deserve it. They lost a lot of people, a lot of fighters, a lot of young men and young girls fought against ISIS. And they think they deserve to control at least their part of Syria, not the whole part, but at least their part, the Kurdish majority part of Syria, which is north and east. So demanding Kurds to leave arms and surrendering to Jolani government doesn't work. It will not work. And I'm sure Turkey is also aware of that. It doesn't mean that Turkey really wants this demand to come true only because they ask that. It's Turkish style diplomacy, I call. They always ask the maximum and maximum, like maximum of maximum, and they know they will not get it, but they think if they ask maximum, they will get a list like more than they want, more than they need. So this is the Turkish diplomacy. This is the Turkish style of diplomacy. Will it work in Syria? I really doubt it. I don't think so, actually. The reason is the same reason. The Jolani government, the Syrian government is not united. It's divided by itself. SNA, figures, elements, and Jolani. And actually, I posted a blog article on my blog site, and if you let me, I just want to let everyone that I am a new YouTuber. I didn't post any video yet, but I will post. So I would love to invite people to my YouTube channel, and maybe we will share it, and in my blog as well. So last week, something strategic happened in Aleppo, the second largest city of Syria, very strategic place for Sunni Muslims as well. It's like the rich spiritual place as well, and strategic, economic. There are two neighborhoods in Aleppo called Ashrafia and Sheikh Masud. These two neighborhoods are under control of Kurds because it's Kurdish majority. Actually, these neighborhoods are Kurdish majority neighborhood in Aleppo. But again, they are neighborhoods. Actually, they are not cities. They are not countries. Two neighborhoods. Even though it is Kurdish majority, actually many non-Muslim Syrians are living there as well, like Assyrians, Armenians, and other Christian groups, and they're actually working under SDF. Well, not SDF. I will avoid to say SDF in Ashrafia and Sheikh Masud because if you remember a couple of months ago, SDF, Syrian Democratic Forces, withdrew their troops from these two neighborhoods to show the goodwill to engage and integrate with the Syrian central government, Jolani government. So there's no SDF anymore, but there are Kurdish self-defense units like police and anti-terror units. And Christians are participating in these groups as well. So you can say that these two neighborhoods are Kurdish majority, but also hosting a significant amount of non-Muslim Syrians. So why it is important for Turkey and Jolani government? But actually, we have to make a specific line between Turkey and Jolani government. So in case of Aleppo, I will mostly call it Turkish affiliated group Syrian National Army rather than Jolani, and I will explain why I call it. So what Turkish affiliated groups want in Ashrafia and Sheikh Masud, basically in Aleppo, because these two neighborhoods are Kurdish military and economic and administrative presence in west of the river, Tigris. Western Syria, you can say, because most of Kurds are controlling the east, while these two neighborhoods are in the west part of Syria. So these two neighborhoods are important, and basically they don't want Kurds to live there anymore. It's kind of genocide, and they just want to expel Kurds and non-Muslims from these neighborhoods. This is the ideologic and belief part. And strategically, they don't want these two groups, two neighborhoods, to be controlled by the Kurds. But it's because it's like, someone is pushing your neck. Aleppo is very important for Turkish affiliated groups more than Jolani. So this is the reason they attack that. But through the open sources, what we got is, while they claim the Kurds are attacking, Kurds are the first groups who start the attack. The Turkish affiliated groups were filming themselves, and they were firing the heavy artillery to these two neighborhoods, which is really, it's populated area. It's not surrounding. It's like people are living there. It's city. So they are shelling. They are firing the artillery. They are firing rockets and whatever they found. But on the other hand, they are claiming the Kurds are the first to attack them, which actually doesn't make sense to me. Not only because of these videos, but also the logic tells us Kurds are the group that wants to make peace because they are tired of the fight. Since beginning of the Syrian civil war, they are fighting against regime, against Russian affiliated groups, Iranian affiliated groups, Turkish affiliated groups, ISIS, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, and all kind of jihadists Kurds are fighting against. So they are tired and they want peace. So there is no reason for Kurds to attack them. So basically, apparently it is a stage to push Kurds, to provoke Kurds to attack them. Did it work? I really don't think so, because apparently the USA took the control in Aleppo and bring all the parties together around the round table. In my article, I mentioned, I will repeat it here. To understand Turkish foreign policy, you have to first have a look on Turkish domestic policy. Without knowing what's happening in Turkey, inside of Turkey, it will be difficult or almost impossible to understand the foreign policy. So let's have a look what's going on in Turkish policy in recent weeks and recent months. Kurdish politicians, not only the Kurdish opposition, like Kurdish majority party, but Kurdish politicians in AKP are criticizing the foreign ministry of Turkey. It's really critical and heavy criticizing to minister because they think the minister doesn't want a peace with Kurds, nor in Syria, neither in Turkey. And they're blaming him to be like game breaker. I mean, it's their claim, not mine. I'm telling you what they say. They say the minister is not in favor of peace. He is doing something that be obstacle to create a peace inside Turkey and Syria and generally like in the region. Why they are saying so? Because the peace process, the second peace process between Turkey and the PKK are going on in Turkey. Right now, actually, can I say they advance? Well, it's controversial, but there's something solid. The one of the biggest Turkish nationalist, like ultra nationalist political party, is supporting this peace process, which is surprising. And some ministers, some politicians, the intellectuals, politicians, even the business people support this peace process because I can say these people are tired of the war again. But except the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Turkey, he's not very friendly to this peace process, and he's not really avoiding to publish that openly in interviews, like in actions. He's like expressing that he's not big fan of this process, nor in Turkey, neither in Syria. So why it is important? Because what's happening in Turkey, again, what's happening in Turkey is affecting the foreign policy. So the same foreign minister of Turkey is also dealing with Syrian issue, the Kurdish issue. While this attack were taking place in Aleppo, he was in Damascus having a meeting with Turkish intelligence, president of intelligence agent, and Jolani. He was in meeting, and while they were attacking each other in Aleppo. Is that coincidence? Well, if you want to believe that it's coincidence, it's your problem, but apparently it is not. Again, anyone knows Turkey, anyone follows Turkey and Middle East affairs, you will understand that's not coincidence. But can we say that Jolani is behind of this attack? Not actually. Again, like I said, beginning of my words, the northern part of Syria seems like to be under control of Jolani government, but actually it is under control of Syrian National Army. Formerly it was called Free Syrian Army, then it became Syrian National Army, and they are Ikhwan and Muslimin, this Muslim Brotherhood affiliated groups ideologically. They are both Muslims with Jolani, but in different side of the Islam. Jolani is more like Al-Qaeda origin, which is not secret anymore. He is like Salafi and very close-minded. Muslim Brotherhood, on the other hand, is in the terror list of many countries like Egypt, Saudi, and Jordan, and some other countries. They are like more moderate. Again, it's controversial, but you can say they are more moderate. I don't know if it's the best word or not. So Jolani and Syrian National Army are not sharing the same ideology or same Islam. They are different type of Muslims. Why that's important? Uh, I will repeat again. Syrian government is not united itself inside. So without a united country, united government, you cannot push people to accept a united Syria, which is Kurds. While Jolani and Syrian National Army are not on the same page, they are not sharing the same ideology, they are not same type of Muslims, and they are not building same Syria. They cannot ask Kurds, they cannot force Kurds to accept that. So from this, we can take a lesson that we can take analysis that Kurdish issue is not really a big issue for Jolani. He's not really not because he's an angel or he's a nice person, but he doesn't care. He doesn't have any interest in Kurdish part of Syria. From my point of view, that's the reason that the thing started Aleppo under Syrian National Army control, Turkish affiliated groups control. And I mentioned Deir ez-Zor. For those who doesn't know this place, it's in the eastern part of Syria, under control of Kurdish forces, Syrian National Army, which strategic place because it's kind of a gate to Jordan and Iraq, like eastern neighborhood. And most importantly, Deir ez-Zor is hosting a lot of oil wells, oil fields. It's one of the places that Turkey is pushing Kurds, forcing Kurds to leave, and Kurds are holding them. And if you follow the open sources like social media and media, some generals, Syrian army generals, are threatening Kurds to leave Deir ez-Zor. They call it Jazira, like eastern part of Syria is called Jazira. And they are asking Kurds to leave Jazira. But these generals are actually Turkish affiliated ones. They are not friends of Jolani, because Jolani's friends are mostly non-Syrian generals. You know, they have Al-Qaeda and Hayat Tahrir al-Sham and ISIS background. But these generals, not in my knowledge, I never heard that they are threatening Kurds. They never mentioned about Kurds. But Turkish affiliated generals are pushing Kurds to leave there. So again, from this, we can take an analysis that Kurdish issue is issue of Kurds rather than Jolani. Jolani is not interested in this place. Jolani is mostly interested in like pushing the Iranians and Alevi minority, because in his ideology and beliefs, Alevis are a bigger threat than Kurds. But for Turkish affiliated groups, Kurds are the biggest threat. If you have any question, we can jump in, or we can dig in, or we can jump in other part of Syria.
It's true that mainly the author can be not known, but I can mention in 1981 Iraq, the bombing of the nuclear reactor, that it's known because it was against Saddam Hussein, Iraq, but that idea was made twice, Iran and Israel, both attacks. Yeah. But in 2007, in Deir ez-Zor, that was a supposed nuclear settlement in Deir ez-Zor that was attacked by Israel. Ehud Barak was the defense minister, and it was supposed that there were Iran scientists and North Korean scientists for making a nuclear bomb in Deir ez-Zor, like it was intended in Iraq in 1981. I always thought that a civil war or an international civil war must end with an agreement, a signed agreement, and maybe a constitutional change of laws for implementation of the new type of rule of government, of achievement of agreement within the parts. It didn't happen. People were the focus was everywhere, but in Syria was the moment after the before the fall of al-Assad. There was some like stabilization, but it was not stabilization. It was absence of movements. But that absence of movements was not used to make an agreement or take the force for making that agreement and sign some kind of end of the war. So it was still open. It's something like what happens precisely in North South Korea, when there was signed a ceasefire. The war is formally open. So when al-Assad fall, it was some kind of possibility. That's what I think. What the parts want to push for some kind of ending with their parts having winnings. It's curious because as we see in Turkey and it's also in Hungary, it's bad saying those countries in Christmas, Hungary and Turkey. Not a good idea. But the idea is in the middle, without elections, the asking for the people. When you see the bars of the parties, you see that Orban is cow. But the election came and Orban is elected. In Turkey happens something like it. I saw the past months. Erdogan is over. His party is over. Of everything, the opposition will win. Fantastic. It came the elections, and Erdogan is still there. It's curious. It's very curious what happens in some democracies, or maybe we can put some kind of differences, because I will see what happened. They are saying United States will conquest Venezuela. Oh, like Iraq. Wow. But what happened in Iraq? In Iraq, the Jewish force got now Iran influences government. What type of invasion is that? That didn't happen in Hungary in 1956 or in Czechoslovakia in 1968. So it's interesting what you said, because more like the big picture, it's important the finest analysis of each part, each possibility, each idea, and in that thing, everything thought until the fall of al-Assad that from Idlib they were all the same. The Turkish-backed Syrian National Army was the same that al-Julani, because they were on the same territory. But you say that they are not the same. They are divided in the Damascus government. There are also parts within the cities, in Damascus, in Aleppo. They are third. They are also probably. It's because when you see Jordan, you think Abdallah, Hussein, the father. They look some kind of common points, but you don't see the people within the country. What is structured, the countryside, the sands. You look Petra. Beautiful Petra, but you don't see the country as it is. And it also, I think it happens in Syria. You see what you want to see, but you don't see that is divided in Druze, Kurds, in Alawis. There are many peoples.
Sunni tribes. Yeah.
They don't see the complexity.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we had a lot of conversation on Syria, right, with you, and in almost all of them we mentioned that Syria is really complex place. It's not easy to understand. Anyone says I understand Syria completely is most probably wrong. And I advise you to put the link of our conversation of last year, because the day of Syrian Assad regime collapse, and we had a conversation. And this day, like I say, beginning of my work, this day we mentioned that there will be more conflicts in Syria, which came true. And in this day, I said the minorities will fight for their rights, and they will not surrender to Jolani government. They will not surrender to other groups, other Islamist groups, because they don't want, basically, they don't want Islamic groups. They cannot live together. Like Alawis and Salafis living together, not in this world. It's like utopia. It's not a utopia. It's dystopia. You cannot get these two people to live together. Okay,
I
it's like you
mean,
are living the mice and cats in a same box. They will kill each other.
that you said that you told that Kurds in Syria, Kurds in Turkey, but
Yeah.
they're also in Iraq and in
In
Iran,
Iran,
within
yeah,
the different
and Lebanon,
circumstances in
yeah,
all of them. And what is not dystopia, because it's wishful thinking what it will be. The utopia could be the some like not union, because it will be more than utopia, but the coordination activity within all the Kurds in those 4 states.
yeah. Uh, like if you mention the Kurds, of course, Kurds are a nation and they have differences. There are some differences between that Kurd and this Kurd, but for more than 200 years, they are showing the same will to be united, to have same fate. I mean, they tried to divide Kurds. They divided physically, but they couldn't divide mentally. I mean, I have friends from Iran, Iranian Kurdistan, or we say Rojava. So they have the same dream. They have the same language. We speak the same language, and same dreams, same goals, same life, same culture, same things. So they divided physically, but they couldn't divide Kurds like mentally. But it's not a case in Syria. Syria and Iraq, actually, both, and some other countries in the world are atypical countries, I call. Uh, I mean, if you have a look on the history of Syria, you will understand what I mean. Syria has always been divided. Like Alawis are living in the west, Sunnis are living other parts, and the Kurds are living like northeast. And that Syrian, this city and that city of Syria has never been united. They always been like different nations are living in same borders. Living in the same border doesn't make a bunch of people a nation. Actually, I mean the best example is Afghanistan. They never been divided, and I have even an article on that. They have never been a nation. Some people in Syria said we are all Arabs, and Arabic being Arab make us united. I'm talking about history, and this how the Ba'ath regime and Ba'ath ideology grow, like Arabic nationalism. And some said, "Oh, we are from Syria. We have to be united under the name of Syrian, like Kurds, Druze, and this. We are all Syrians." It didn't work, and Arabism didn't work. And some said, "Oh, we are Muslim. We have to be united." But which Muslim? They are Shia Muslim. They are Alevi Muslims. Some Alevi say we are Muslim. Some Alevi say we are Shia. Some Alevi say we are Shia Muslims. Some Alevi say we are not even Muslim. And some people, some Sunnis are Sunni. They are Ikhwan. They are Muslim Brotherhood. And some Muslims are Salafi. Some Muslims are Bahai. Which Muslims are you talking about? So it didn't work either. It's not working right now. And then they said we have to. I mean, we are seeing the ethnicity. We have to dismiss all ethnicity in Syria, but it didn't work as well, because there are a lot of ethnicities are living in Syria, like Kurds, Armenians, Circassians, Assyrians, Arabs, and Druzes. Like ethnicity that didn't work as well. So, I mean, we have to admit, we have to accept that Syria cannot be a united country. Is it a bad thing? Not really. I mean, you can still keep people in the same border, but like in different shape. Not as united country or unitary nation, but a federation or confederation. Confederations are working way better than the united countries. This is why Kurds and Druzes, Alevis and Kurds are offered to Syrian
Like
government.
Switzerland.
And like Switzerland, exactly. That's very like excellent example. And again,
Switzerland, formally, there
what
are no Swiss, mainly chocolate, it's possible, cheese, it's possible,
yeah,
but people are not Swiss. They are German
yeah,
speaking, Italian speaking, French speaking, but they are come from Switzerland. Um,
yeah,
and it's curious because in the early 70s, almost 50 years ago, Hafez al-Assad told Yasser Arafat, the Palestinians never existed. Palestinians never existed. You are great Syria. You are Syrians. All Syria. That idea you told, the idea of great Syria in the past 2,000 or 3,000 years, and the history and those things. But in now, it happened an election in Iraq. Uh, it can be said that Kurds have a good number of seats in the parliament.
yeah,
Probably they can be the main formal system that is like Lebanon, President Kurd and so on, a speaker, the prime minister, but the war there is within the Shiis. It's very interesting the idea of the separation of those Shiis within the part saying, "Oh, the priests of Iran are the superiors, we can have to lead them, uh, go on with them, with they are the leaders of the community," and others saying, "No, no, no, we are Shiis, yes, but further of that, we are Iraqis, and our nationalism is more important than our faith," and that
yeah,
it's dividing the politics in Iraq.
yeah. Actually, it's same story. Like both Iraq and Syria has been established after World War One, and both nations. You can add also Lebanon or some other Arabic countries, some small countries like Jordan. Uh, this country, Syria and Iraq, has never been. It's I'm not insulting them. I fully respect their history and their national identity, but I'm just telling something like in historical scope. This country has never been a nation. It's like mix of the people, like different ethnicities. Of course, I'm not against to have different ethnicities and the religion group. Like many countries in Europe or USA and North America and even Asia are living together, like different identities living together. But it didn't work in Iraq and Syria. I mean, once something doesn't work, you have to change it, right? You cannot insist on the same thing. You have to change it. You shouldn't be that stubborn against change. You have to accept the change sometimes. This is what minorities in Syria are offering to the national government, central government of Syria. And again, in my opinion, there are two central governments in Syria: one in the north, Turkish affiliated one, and one in the south, Jolani. And if you let me, I just want to talk about two factors: the factor of Saudi and Israel. What's going on there? First, let me start from the Saudi Arabia effect in Syria, and I will explain why I think that there are two central governments in Syria: the Turkish one and the Jolani. First of all, Saudi Arabia is the secret actor in Syria. They're investing, they're like flowing the money, they're sending like diplomatic and political support to Syrian government. They're lobbying in Washington in favor of Jolani government to break effect of Turkey. I mean, they're not making themselves very visible in the field of Syria. But I mean, the visible actors we know: Turkey, Israel, Iran. Iran is not visible anymore because they have no chance in Syria. They already left. They had to left. But visible actors in Syria are now Turkey and Israel. However, Saudi is the secret actor, I call it. They are lobbying in Washington. They are asking Washington government, like Trump administration, to lift some sanctions on Syrian government and sending some, the military support, diplomatic support, economic support to Syrian government. I mean, Jolani government. to attract them, to get them more affiliated to their interest. On the other hand, Turkey is, even though they are working very close with Jolani government, they still have a suspect on Jolani. They are not very tied up. They are not very engaged to each other, not the level they wish, I can say. This is why Turkey is always working with SNA origin generals, origin figures. As a solid example I can give, if you have a look on Syrian army, you will find a general, like General Abdul or something, and his assistant is another person is affiliated to Turkey. For example, the general is affiliated to Jolani. He's, let's say, he's Al-Qaeda origin, but his assistant, like the second general, is always affiliated to Turkey. So there's a general or minister, you can say. There's minister, but there's and the shadow minister. So minister is affiliated to Jolani on the paper, but his assistant and the second ministers are affiliated to Turkey. This is how Turkey is controlling or trying to control Syria. And again, if you understand Turkish foreign policy, you have to know domestic policy of Turkey. Actually, this is how it works in Turkey. There is a minister in the parliament, but there is a shadow minister which is directly affiliated to president. So parliament is there, but it's the visible part of the Turkish government, but there's a shadow part of Turkish government which is affiliated to president directly. So this Turkish model is applying in Syria right now. A minister or general affiliated to Jolani and shadow minister or shadow general affiliated to Turkey. So under this situation, under this condition, you cannot expect a united Syria. This is not how a professional government should work, actually. I'm not even talking about elections and other democratic values. I mean, you cannot even talk about this thing in Syria right now. It's too much far away from Syria. But under the situation, you cannot even talk about normal values like the human rights, democracy, and the freedom of speech. Will not work because government is not a normal government. It's artificial government. It's like a synthetic government, basically we can call it. And another important part is Israel. If you talk about Syria right now, you have to talk about Israel because Israel is the visible actor in Syria right now. And it is kind of affiliated to Kurds as well. But interestingly, it's not open one. And honestly, I'm not sure that I really understand the relationship between Kurds and Israel right now. Because on one hand, Kurds are saying that we are ready to work with Israel. On the other hand, they say we have no communication with them. Just today, a couple of hours ago, I read an interview of Syrian Democratic Forces leader gave an interview to Saudi media, and there he says we have no connection with Israel government, which is surprising. Because Israel seems to be very willing to work every minority. Each minority is in Syria, like Alevis, Druzes, and Kurds. Right now, they are working very closely with Druzes. Their cooperation is very solid, very strong. They even control certain part of southern Syria, which is a couple of kilometers away from Damascus, center of Damascus. But on the other hand, we don't see a very visible cooperation between Alevis and Israel, which is understandable because Alevis have always been close to Assad regime, which is used to be enemy of Israel, and biggest partner of Iran, again biggest enemy of Israel. So that you can understand why Israel is avoiding to work with Alevi figures, Alevi former soldiers or communities. But on the other hand, working with Kurds is not visible. That I am not sure that I understand the reason. One reason can be, again, domestic policy of Turkey, the peace process going on Turkey right now. Kurds are very careful, very they are very capable to not make their Turkish neighbor angry. So this is why they are not telling. Maybe they are not. Maybe that's the reason that they are not speaking loudly about their cooperation with Israel, or they are literally avoiding cooperating with Israel. That can be a reason. Or other reason can be that Israel is not very willing with working with Kurds. A similar reason with Alevis, because Kurds in their history have been working with Palestinian groups in the past. They even fought side by side in the Jerusalem, the Kurdish military groups even send their troops to fight against Israel. In the history, I'm talking about like more than half century. Maybe that's the reason Israel is not very willing to work with Kurds. To me, the second option, which is like the sending Kurdish troops to Israel fighting, is the least likely one, because again, we are talking about like half century ago. They shouldn't care about this. It's like it should be already passed. But the first option seems to be most likely one. There's a peace process going on in Turkey. It is like after centuries, they are very close to have a solution in Turkey with PKK, with Kurdish groups and the Turkish government, because Turkish government has to have a peace, not because they want, but that they have to. On the other hand, PKK also wants to have a peace because they want to focus on other regions like Syria, for example, or Iran or Iraq. So both sides wants to have a peace. So that makes the pieces very close, like closest in the history. So that can be a reason that Kurds don't really want to speak loudly about their cooperation if they have with Israel. But on the other hand, even though it is not visible and Kurds are denying that they have working with Israel, they are cooperating with Israel. Turkish foreign minister again is very angry and openly saying that any cooperation between Israel and Kurds will be very dramatic, and that will cause, indirectly, he says that will cause a Turkish military invasion in Syria, like a couple of years ago. So we can understand through the open sources, there is a big concern in Turkey that Kurds and Israel will work together, and that will really help Turkey. Because Turkey has plans, they have vision in Syria, and they think such a cooperation between Kurds and Israel will block them, which is true actually. In case there's such a cooperation, will be a nightmare for Turkey even. So instead of convincing Kurds, they are threatening Kurds. If you work with Israel, we will attack you. If you work with Israel, we will bomb you. We will send tribal leaders and other things, our proxies. So this Turkish style diplomacy again.
Sorry for, but mainly it can be the extension of interests. It's when you have many points of view of interest, the strength you can put in everyone, in each of them, it's lower than if you focus on 2 or 3, because Turkish government it has interest, for example, in Libya, that it's still divided, the civil war in Sudan, the same actors in everyone, because you can see Emirates in Libya, you can see Emirates in Sudan. They're both having this in so-called Somalia, but Somalia it also not exists, because at least there are 3 Somalias: Puntland, Somaliland, the so-called Somalia, Mogadishu. So there are several focuses, and for sure, for common sense, there can be the idea of we can close chapters for at least some of them, for focusing those ingredients on the other. So it can be possible, the idea of having a peace agreement in Turkey with the Kurds, if only if we won, if we win, if we have the superiority of the Kurds, but it's not possible. That scenario, it's not possible, because the ceasefire will have the approaching point with the idea of what Kurds want and what the government of Ankara wants. So it will be what the parts want, instead a middle point. So it will disappoint every part, because it will not be what whatever. The idea is that the overextension of the lines of action outside of the parts. None of one is China. None of one is United States. We are talking about Turkey, we are Saudi Arabia. Some of them have money, but having money, you don't have everything for having a public policy like China or United States. So it's a possibility of breaking in some scenario because the interest so divided can have problems. Or when we not have news because I said the Iraqi Kurds, there are no news about them. It can be there having their business, everything, but we have no news. Uh, in past months, we have no news from Libya. For sure, they are still there. The North Darfur capital was full. But if it was not, we have no news from Sudan. But those parts you said in Syria, they're actors in other conflicts.
Regarding what you said, let's have a look what happened a couple of years ago. Let's go back to 7th October attacks from Hamas. I call it like 9/11 attacks in Middle East. Hamas attack changed everything in Middle East. There is no Iran anymore. There is no Octopus arms in Middle East of Iran. Israel is the domestic power in. I mean, it has always been a domestic, one of the strongest actor in Middle East. But right now, today, they really they're game changer. They are creating games. They are creating alliance. They are team up with other countries in the region and outside of the region. For example, Greece and Cyprus. On the other hand, Turkey has changed a lot because October 7th, actually, it was the October 7th was the reason that helped Turkey to get a certain part of Syria in a peaceful way, or let's say change the regime. They indirectly they cooperate with Israel to kick Iran out of Syria, actually. So we can estimate that Iranian regime is angry to Turks as well as Israel. Not only Israel but also Turks helped this groups in Idlib to kick Iranians out of Syria and the Russians as well. So you mentioned Sudan and Libya. These are the place where Turks are. It's like they have proxy powers on the field. In Sudan, they are working with the national government. In Libya as well. And you know what happened last week? Plane crashed in Ankara. Coincidentally, I don't think so. I mean, I don't have proof, of course, but it doesn't look like to be a coincidence. So these are the places Turkey wants to focus, and they want to get everything be done in Syria, field of Syria. They want everything to be done in Turkey, inside, like domestically. They don't want a fight with Kurdish group in Turkey. They don't want fights in Syria. They want to focus other parts. So for doing that, you have to. I mean, they want themselves to be stronger inside in the home. So to be stronger in the home, you have to make a peace. You cannot fight PKK anymore because it's like more than half century. You fought against them, but you couldn't win. You are not victorious. You are the second largest army of NATO, but still, Kurdish groups are bothering you in your home. They are attacking constantly. They are, they are bothering you. They are attacking you. They are killing your soldier. They couldn't kill you, but they are still harassing you. So there's only one way, making a peace. This is why a second peace process started. It's not because the parties are angel. They want to focus on other side. This is why they want to make a peace in Turkey, in the home. On the other hand, from Kurdish scope, Iran is not a game changer in Middle East anymore. This is why they are purchasing arms planes, jets from Pakistan, from China, and some other stuffs from Russia, and they are producing something to protect themselves instead of attacking other countries. I mean, Iran is not attacking to any other country anymore. They don't have this capability. They are not capable to send their proxies. Literally, they don't have a proxy anymore. They don't have Hezbollah. They don't have Hamas. They don't have other groups in Iraq. They don't have Lebanon. They are not in Lebanon. They are not in Syria. They are not in Palestine. They are not in Iraq anymore. I mean, in Iraq they still there, but they are not very functional. So Iran is like closing up to protect itself. On the other hand, they are giving some more freedom to people. For example, I never been to Iran recently, but what I'm seeing from the social media, the police is not forcing women to cover their hair anymore. And I know people are cheering them on the street. They are playing music, Western side. So Iran is changing to protect itself, and they know someday they will be attacked on their soil, like Israel will attack them, like in 12 days worth, like that. So they try to establish a new military doctrine and social doctrine, and from side of Kurds, PKK and other political parties of Kurds, they don't want to fight Turkey anymore because they just want to get their autonomy, like cultural autonomy, like basic rights, human rights. They want to govern their area, their cities, their province, like simple rights, like in Spain, for example, to have autonomous region, to govern themselves, to elect their leaders and politicians, to have their self-defense forces. That's all. And they know there will be war in Iran, which is hosting like more than 12 million Kurds. It's like a big portion of Kurds. Each Kurdish party wants to focus there. They know Israel will attack there, and there will be more opportunity for Kurds to take their part from Iran. So from Kurd, and also they want to focus on Syria as well. They don't want fighting in Syria anymore. They want to same autonomy they have in Turkey, in Syria as well, which they have in Iraq. So Turkey, Syria, Iraq are safe, and they will be waiting for the war in Iran. Everyone is getting ready for something. Turkey is getting ready to focus other part. Israel is getting ready to change the things in Middle East, in other countries like Lebanon and the surrounding. Iran is protecting itself, and Kurds are trying to get their part from like what they lost in the history. So every actor in Middle East trying to team up, trying to reschedule their programs. They want to like create new strategies and everything. So these are the station for Turkey and Kurdish group to have a peace.
Some people said in past that in certain future Turkey would be Iran and Iran could be Turkey. I don't know that it's realistic, but the idea from Israel could be that different scenarios, because Gaza chapter is not closed, although there is a declaration of Security Council, United Nations, about the plan. It's not Trump plan, it's the Security Council Trump plan. The idea of having peace agreements in Abraham agreements with Lebanon, Syria, it's a possibility. Writer and analyst Enrique Zimmerman told. There is real the possibility about the agreement with Kazakhstan, that it's realistic. It's made. There are agreements within future within Indonesia. There is the possibility in future of incorporation of Indonesia to Abraham agreements, but Lebanon is an open chapter, because the reorganization of government, majorities and minorities, the idea of Aoun as chief of staff, our now chief of state, having the control of the what any state have to be, the control of the forces and the violence within the state, not outside the state, what was Hezbollah. It's open the idea of Syria is too stalled. Houthi is supposed to be there, but who knows? Israel has not closed any chapter. They still have all open, and within the idea, this year 2026, there will be elections in Israel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's. I mean, Israel is different than other Middle East countries. Elections still do matter in Israel, and we know Netanyahu wants to be in power forever. He cannot declare a dictatorship because Israel is more democratic than any other country in the Middle East. So he cannot do that. I'm sure that he could do that, but basically he cannot. So he wants to be re-elected. I'm sure he will run as candidate. I don't know did he declare or no, but I'm sure that he will. And even though he has a lot of problems in home, people are protesting him, and there are some investigations are underway. I guess like a couple of days ago, he was in hearing in the parliament or court, I don't know. So he had a lot of problems, but yeah, he wants to be re-elected, and he thinks that there's something that he has to get finished. Some works he has to get finished, like yeah, basically he will run, and it's an important factor in Israel. On the other hand, elections in other countries like Turkey are they don't matter anymore. I can say in Turkey. Basically, if we had this conversation a couple of years ago, I could mention the factor of elections. That political party is doing that because of elections. President is doing this because he wants to be elected or something like that. But today I cannot say this because elections doesn't matter in Turkey anymore. Or let's say, I mean, they still do matter, but not as before, as a couple of years ago. So elections are not factor in Turkey, a major factor in Turkey anymore. To be back to Syrian case, maybe we have to answer for people who are listening us and who will listening us on YouTube. We have to mention that maybe they're asking you talk a lot, but you never told us will there be a military invasion in Syria or no, or there will be another war between Turks and Kurds in Syria. So what's happening in Aleppo? Did it finish? Still going on? To answer all these questions, these questions are like $1 million questions. What's going on in Aleppo right now? There is no clash. Like the parties stop shooting each other. They are not firing anything. They find each other right now. So Kurdish neighborhoods are safe. They didn't allow the Syrian National Army elements to enter these two neighborhoods that I mentioned in the beginning. And the major question: will Turkey attack Kurds? I don't think so. My answer is solid. I have a solid answer, which is no, based on several factors. The first factor is Turkish economy. Yeah, elections are not as important as before in Turkey, but economy does matter. Turkish economy is not really doing well. Yeah, when it comes to geopolitical interest, you can dismiss economic situation, but Turkey is not in that stage actually. Yeah, geopolitical Syria is very important for Turkey, but they know that they're not able to attack. It's not easy as before. Yeah, they are still stronger than Kurdish forces. I mean, on the paper, they are the second largest army of NATO. I mean, Turkish army is very strong. It's like one of the strongest in the world. Of course, if they could attack Kurds, they will win. I mean, they will be victorious again on the paper. But that doesn't mean that Kurds will leave their lands. They will resist, and they will do their best to stop. They will do their best to survive, I can say. And compare it to a couple of years back, Kurds also developed their military. They are now using the drone operators. They have drone operators. They are using FPV drones. They are using more. They are more trained. They are receiving more training, military training from the USA and other countries, other allies countries. So they are also getting stronger. And yeah, Turkey is still stronger than Kurds, but it will be not as easy as a couple of years ago. So that's the second factor. And the biggest factor I can say is USA. America doesn't want a fight in Syria anymore. America as well wants to focus on other part of the world. I guess they got bored in Middle East. They are dealing with Middle East more than like almost a century, and like in World War I, the enemies were Germans, and World War II enemies were Germans. After World War II, there was a Cold War. The enemy was Soviets and Russians. After the Cold War, the enemy was Al Qaeda and other asymmetric groups. But now the enemy, they have a new enemy, China. They want to focus on the Asia. So they got bored. They don't want to deal with Middle East affairs anymore. And maybe that's the reason they are leaving Middle East affairs to their best allies, which is Israel, and then Saudi Arabia, and then Egypt, and Turkey, of course, and apparently Greece is another uh, actor in Middle East, or at least in the western part of Middle East, Eastern Mediterranean. So everyone has a different agenda. Yeah, my answer is there will be no war in Syria uh, because of these factors. And other factor, the last factor I can add, the peace process in Turkey. Seems like Turkish government really wants to have a peace with PKK. When I say peace process, please understand I'm talking about the peace process with PKK. So they really want to have a peace. They really want to solve this issue in their favor, of course. And that's the fourth reason. Uh, Taking all these reasons, taking all these factors together, a war in Syria is unlikely. A war like military attack from Turkey is unlikely, and it's not really possible. It doesn't seem to be possible. However, that's Turkey, and you have to always be ready for unexpected things. Uh, you know, you never know what's going to happen in Turkey. Things are changing very fast, very rapidly in Turkey, and uh, like one minister can get upset to another minister, and they start clash, and this clash can cause like this. Is what's happening in Turkey? I'm not kidding. They can cause more clash in this institution and other institution, and even cause end of peace process. Yeah, I know it's very unrealistic. It sounds very like even stupid, I can say, but that's possible. It's not very possible. I can say it's like less than 1% possible. Uh, but I need to mention that if you work on Turkey, if you follow Turkish domestic and foreign policy, you have to um, you have to regard all the options together. Yeah, again, my answer is no. There will be no war in Syria between Turks and Kurds, and you can even understand from the interviews of the Turkish generals and the ministers. Like defense minister a couple of days ago said, like they are not mentioning Syrian Democratic Forces as terrorists anymore. That's very significant change compared with the past. Even the foreign minister of Turkey, who is very hawkish, I can say, is not calling Kurds as terrorists anymore. And instead, Turks are calling the Kurdish forces to get on a round table with Syrian government to accept the March 10 Accord, the agreement between Syrian government and Kurds. So they really changed their rhetoric, I can say. They are not calling Kurds terrorists. They are not calling to destroy the Rojava government. They don't mention yeah, from time to time they mention military invasion, but not very strongly. Rather, they said, instead of saying that we will attack Syria, they say Syrian government will attack the Kurds. That's another significant change. All we know that Syrian government cannot attack without permission of Turkey. But mentioning that Syrian government will attack is significant, a major change in their language, their vocabulary, their rhetoric. So that's a sign that a war in Syria, the northern part of Syria, between Kurds and Turks, is not very likely, I can say.
You mentioned the drones. It's interesting because people would think that Bayraktar and Turkey was the first making of drones and first use in Libyan civil war, but after the first use in Ukraine war within the Ukraine armed forces, now the first army in the world within drones is Ukraine because of factual use on the war. So thinking, you could say, who would be the best trainer for Kurds for drones? Probably not the United States, probably Ukraine. Ukraine needs Turkey because the idea of confronting Russia within the ally of Erdogan, it's possible, but probably a
Is it?
historic view of Erdogan until the fall of the 18th century. Crimea was part of the Ottoman Empire, so for sure it's thinking Crimea, if it is not Ukraine, it's part of Turkey more than Russia. So that clashing of interests, for sure, Ukraine leader must see Kurds as better friends than Erdogan, for sure. But for sure, also, the needs as a state, they are more in Turkey than with the Kurds that for now has no state on their own.
Mm-hmm.
So thinking in drones, it appeared to me that idea of complexity of interest and going to Lebanon, Syria, the idea of if there are two governments in Syria, the Cyprus issue within two governments inside the island and the possibility of the stabilization of the island with the idea that it's not a country apart. Formally, it's a part of the European Union. And the idea of entering European Union of the island is that the whole island is part of European Union within the idea of the north is occupied by another power. So, for example, Lebanon and Israel have a delimitation of waters years ago.
It's very important.
And now the idea of having the waters within Syria and North Cyprus and Turkey, and the idea of Israel having with Cyprus, with Greece, those possibility of clashes there.
Yeah. Like I say, everyone is in Middle East wants to team up with other actors. And again, the October 7 attack of Hamas changed everything in Middle East. It's like 9/11 of Middle East, I call it. Right now we don't have Iran in Middle East anymore, but we have Greece and Cyprus in Middle East affairs. So teaming up with Israel makes them an actor in Middle East, and not only confront with Turkey in the Aegean Sea or Mediterranean, but also in Syria as well. Regarding Ukraine and Russia, well, I know you will not like that, and you will disagree, but I don't think Putin and Erdogan are good friends right now. As you know, in recent weeks, like in 10 days, first 10 days, at least 4 Turkish ships were attacked in Black Sea, and all of them were attacked by Russian drones. And they found at least three, what we know from the open sources, 3 drones shut down or crashed in Turkish soil. And all these drones were Russian drones. And one of them has been shut down over Ankara, the capital of Turkey, and very near to the military factories, military facilities. One of them has been shut down or crashed, or however you call it. They found a drone, Russian drone, in a city close between Turkey, Ankara and Istanbul, like capital city and the largest city of Turkey, called Kocaeli. And this city is one of the technology and industry hub of Turkey. Very important city, very strategic place. Again, bordering to Black Sea. The other drone has been shot down over another province, which is close to the, I can say, sea border to Greece. Interestingly, I mean, I don't have conspiracy theory that Greece sent this drone. I am not saying that, but it is very important to see that Russian drone in a western part of Turkey, because it's very far. I mean, the Black Sea area is close to Russia. I mean, it's very close, couple of kilometers, and you can send the drones, technically possible. But to see a Russian drone at the western part of Turkey, that's very interesting, and no one is talking about that. I don't know. Apparently, some Russian ships passing through the Dardanelles. The city is very close to Dardanelles, Bosphorus. Maybe some Russian ships sent these drones over there because again the province is very far to Russian border, and yeah, there are some other factors that's telling us Turkey and Russia are not in the best stage. And we also remember that a couple of weeks ago, Turkish media were talking about to sending back S-400 air defense system to Russia. I honestly don't think that Russia will accept that. And I don't think some Turkish journalists are saying that Russia needs more weapons, more defense system because of war in Ukraine. But I don't buy this. I don't believe that because air defense system is something you need against an enemy that has air spare like air power. But Ukraine compared to Russian air power is less strong, right? It's not strong as Russia. So to tell people that Russia needs more air defense against Ukraine doesn't make sense to me. I don't buy this. So apparently Turkey wants to push back, force Russians to get their S-14 air defense system to get back to for they buy F-35 stealth jets from USA. As long as the S-400s are staying in Turkey, for Turkish army, for Turkish government to have F-35 is literally impossible. So Turkey is working hard to solve this problem, but apparently Russians are blocking that. Russians are not really helping, and apparently, and the reason that all we are hearing, Russia are invited to Syria by USA. It's really interesting, but some open sources, some journals and analysts are telling that USA has invited Russia into Syria to mediate between Kurdish forces and between minorities, let's say, and the central government. That's very interesting. That means no one is happy about Turkish power in Syria. They even inviting Russians into Syria to block, apparently, to block Turkish power, Turkish influence in Syria. And will Turkey love this? I don't think so. It's very bad sign for it's red light for Turkey. So comparing all these things, no, I don't think the things are going in a good direction for Turkey, neither for Russia or Greece. So Russian and Turkish relationship are not in the best stage right now because of the drones, because of the ships in Black Sea, because of what's happening in Syria. And on other hand, again, I explained that Turkey wants to focus other part like Sudan, Libya, and other part of the world, but they cannot because of the agreement between Greece, Israel, and Cyprus. That agreement literally blocks Turkey to reach the North Africa. I mean Libya. So it's like having a wall between Turkey and Libya, both military and economically. So these are the things Turkey has to deal with, but they cannot. They cannot as long as they have clash, they have war in Turkey. And again, I want to highlight the importance of peace process in Turkey. Turkey is doomed to solve this issue, the Kurdish issue. Otherwise, it's technically impossible. I mean, the logic tells us it's not really possible for Turkey to deal with other issues as long as it has problem in Turkey inside the home, right?
It's true that many factors can import a changing because I can say, for example, the agreement within the European Union and Mercosur, it was almost for signing because the idea of majorities and minorities within states and the number of population with a neutralized France was inside the numbers of approval, but suddenly Meloni told no. Italy says no. Okay, that destabilizes the numbers, and it is not possible to be approved in December. Who knows in January? But the idea of France neutralized within the inner problems, the idea of having provisional prime ministers, the outsider blocks in the National Assembly, within Mélenchon and Le Pen Bardelin, within having both having majority in the assembly, it is the possibility of having influence in that scenario, because the classes within Turkey and Greece about the Aegean islands, France repeatedly said backing the idea of Greece sending vessels, but
Yeah.
now France, it's like in a limbo. So it's possibility an ingredient for making that importance of Israel, Greece, Cyprus for approval, because although it is European Union, France, the back major partner of Greece, it's not in the best of the moment.
Uh, well, do you think all European Union are supporting Greece? I don't think so, honestly. If you remember what happened to SAFE, the security agreement, European security agreement, or some people are calling it European NATO. Uh, Greece blocked Turkey very successfully, actually, and very surprisingly. It was big, like 3 months ago, if I'm not mistaken. Turkey has been invited to take a part in SAFE project. You know what I'm talking about, right? The European Army.
Yeah.
I don't know its integration of the SAFE. So Turkey has been invited by Germany, and by the way, Germany is one of the countries in Europe is buying a lot of arms and defense systems from even Israel. Uh, Apparently, Germany wants to build a new army and new military. So they asked Turkey to join the state project, but Greece said no. And when I heard this news, I was like, okay, Greece is saying no, but it's just bargaining, it's just negotiating. Once Germany gives something to Greece, some privilege or whatever you call it, Greece will be okay to accept Turkey. But actually, I was wrong, because Greece really strategically insists to Turkey, it strategically blocked Turkey to be part of SAFE. Uh, that was surprising, and that was a very strong move of Greece. And I can say after World War I, the first geopolitical mindset move of Greece. It was good for Greece, of course, because to accept Turkey in the SAFE will reduce importance of Greece, right? This is what logic tells us. So to say no Turkey helped Greece to regain its importance, its geopolitical importance and economic importance. What you say is totally true. France is supporting Greece. They are selling like very high technology ships, like weapons and systems, and they are buying weapons from Israel as well. They even arming the islands, small island and islets in Aegean Sea, which is very important for defense of Greece against Turkey. Because as far as I remember, like 10 years ago or even more, there was an agreement between Turkey and Greece to de-arm this island. According to this agreement, no parties in Aegean could arm the island. But apparently Greece is not recognizing this agreement anymore, because he is seeing that Greece is seeing that Turkey is getting stronger in military-wise, and you cannot just sit and watch what's going on there. So they are buying weapons, the drones from Israel. The most important, they're buying anti-ship systems in the island, which is very important and strategy to block Turkey. Because most of these islands, Greek islands, are actually literally a couple of kilometers away from the Turkish border. There are some islands you can even swim from Turkey to Greece. Like islands are very close. The islands are very close to Turkish mainland. Literally, you can swim. Like if you are a good swimmer, even if you're just normal swimmer, you can swim from Turkey to Greece. It's very important. It's very strategic, and it's very bad news for Turkey. On the other hand, again, France is arming Greece as well. Uh, but I don't know, shall we call it bad news or no? Germany is not happy about what's going on between Turkey and Greece. Because in Germany's mind, Turkey is a very important, very significant part of SAFE project, which I think it's not possible anymore. I mean, on the paper, SAFE is there, but physically, I don't think it will happen, at least so far. So Germany was putting too much weight on Turkey, but apparently it will not work. Turkey and UK, which are two European countries, are not member of European Union, will not join SAFE project. Doesn't make SAFE very safe, I can say, because without Turkey and UK, this project will not work.
So it's not possible watching a class for the islands with Greece and Turkey. Not possible. But there can be classes within the idea of delimitation of waters of economic zone.
Yeah.
And who knows, it is possible
And
classes
sorry, fossil.
on land.
Sorry, Juan.
It is
We have
possible
to talk about
classes on
fossils.
vessels.
Yeah, vessels.
Classes on land within the next 3 months or so on Cyprus as island, or destabilization is not so imminent.
Yeah, I would be agree on that. Yeah. I mean, Greece and Turkey, Greece and Cyprus are, if you take Mediterranean as a chessboard, they're playing very carefully. They are not rushing. They already lost a certain part of Cyprus, the island, to Turkey. Like it's under control of Turkey. Even it's like half century. So they know they cannot rush. If they rush, they will lose. So instead of rushing, they're playing very carefully, very slowly, and very wisely. I can say they make their moves very wisely. Again, I was surprised when I saw Greece is insisting to block Turkey in SAFE project, to join SAFE project. Again, I was thinking that Greece will say no for a while, then he will be okay. But no, it didn't work. So they are playing very wisely. They are moving very wisely, very strongly, and very steady, and very slowly. They are teaming up with other nations in Middle East, in Israel, and in Egypt as well. Military cooperation between Greece and Egypt is very high, I can say. I don't know how it will affect on Turkey, but apparently, yeah, it will have some effect because I mean Egypt is one of the neighbor to Libya, and Libya is very strategic for Turkey. Libya is like the biggest source of energy of Turkey right now. So yeah, I mean, I cannot predict from now what's going to happen in Syria and the Eastern Med, but if Greece, Israel, and Cyprus alliance work well, that will also likely Lebanon will join to this alliance. Probably they will join. They already make Turkey angry by signing an agreement with Israel. So that will be bad sign for Turkey. Again, I cannot predict what's going to happen. It's like very long term of time. But if Greece, Israel, and Cyprus play their moves very wisely, yeah, that they will get what they want, I can say.
It's interesting because I listened recently that the idea of stopping the war in 1974 in Cyprus was coup d'etat in Greece and the non-support of the Greece new rule government for Greek community in Cyprus that stated that the Greek community in Cyprus was not able to go on, and the British in their bases having the possibility of crossing the lines within the bases from the north to the south. And we talked a few time ago about the idea of having ear on the island because the problems within were quite imminent, and that idea of what's going on And that idea you told that the direct rule from Ankara on the north, suppressing the home rule, was some like an indication of possible of classes, and that is an important issue because other are some like outside the man-communal institutions within NATO, European Union, but in Cyprus it are implied European Union directly, and within the idea of Turkey and Greece, NATO also, because in the 50s Greece and Turkey entered on the same day.
Yeah. Maybe that's the reason Greece is not willing to accept Turkey in safe project. So they learned the lesson, right? Because I mean, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember correctly, Greece has said yes, Turkey is joining to NATO, and maybe they regret right now. So maybe that's the reason. Yeah, maybe that's the reason they don't accept Turkey anymore. They don't accept Turkey is joining to participating to safe project.
It's true. We forgot Egypt. It's curious because they opened a big museum for their antiques, and they have new capital, and that idea of renewal, but they have problems, ancient problems of overpopulation within the Nile because most of the country is inhabitable, and that on the west side of Alexandria, there was a city like pulled by Emirates, I think, was like what Saudi Arabia wanted to make in Neom failed project for sure, but some like that in Egypt. And they're mainly with foreign money because Egypt is with a problem with the economy. For sure, it's that an important thing because the lack of economy, the lack of purchasing power in that idea lacks the possibility of having geopolitical tools for being more power. Although the army of Egypt is important, but the possibility of having intervention it's fewer if you have that those inner problems of population, food, and budget mainly.
Well, when I'm not expert on Egyptian foreign policy, but when I see what Egypt is doing right now, it reminds me Azerbaijan. You may ask, you may think it's very crazy comparison, but my point is that Azerbaijan is playing very balanced between Russia, Turkey, Iran, Israel. This is how they regained their soil from Armenia, and this is how they won in the war. So I can say. I mean, can you imagine that they're dealing with Iran, Israel, and Turkey at the same time? They have good relationship with three countries at the same time. I guess it's one of the rare countries who is able to do that. In Egypt's side, we talk about Turkey, Israel, and Greece clash. Like they are teaming up and they're developing strategy against each other. But I'm seeing that Egypt is not really rushing, right? Uh, Egypt is not very rushing to take a side. They're not very willing to sign any agreement with any part with Israel or Greece or Turkey and with Emirates as well. Instead, they are watching and they are dealing with every parties in this how do you call in this view in this table. This is my impression. Again, I'm not an expert in Egyptian affairs, but this is what I'm seeing from Egypt foreign policy. And there's another factor that relates to Egypt is Sudan. In Sudan, Turkey and United Arab Emirates are clashing each other. They are supporting the different parties in the country. And I guess like last month, Turkey flowed some drones. Uh, Turkish drones hit some United Arab Emirates affiliated groups in Sudan. And according to open sources, social media, and the media, the drones came from Egypt or Haftar's side from Libya, the Libya that part of Libya were controlled by the Egypt affiliated groups. So either from Egypt or from Libya side under control of Egypt. So the Turkish drones came from there, hit someone in Sudan is a sign that there's a high cooperation between Turkey and Egypt. On the other hand, Egypt signed a deal with Israel to buy like big amount of, I'm not expert again, but it's a big amount of gas, natural gas, and they signed agreement with Greece to develop military cooperation. So that's the reason I'm saying that Greece reminding me Azerbaijan's foreign policy, like a balance between all the parties. Not taking side, but making balance between them. So this is my impression. If
Well,
any Egyptian is listening us, please leave a comment if you agree or no, and please explain why. Because I'm also curious to understand Egyptian foreign policy.
interesting on the balance of the program. Do
Yeah,
you think we have talked about the center of Syria, the idea of Damascus, Aleppo, and the idea
yeah,
of north, south, east, and west? All the ideas are inside?
yeah, yeah. Maybe to sum up what I said I don't think there will be a war between Kurds and Turks in Syria. There will be clash for sure, but a war is not very likely because of some factors. Like USA doesn't want war. USA wants all the parties to work together, and some other regional developments. And we mentioned about Greece, Cyprus, and Israel alliance, which is important, and I can say game changer if they move wisely. It's still premature. I mean, yeah, it's still very early to say that this alliance will change things in Middle East. But if they continue and keep their track in this way, yeah, it will be a game changer. And we talk about Egypt. Very interesting. Again, I'm not Egypt expert, but they remind me some other countries in other part of the world, like with their balanced diplomacy. To focus on Syria, this is how we started our conversation. Uh, to understand Turkish foreign policy, if anyone interested in Turkish foreign policy, especially in Syria, they have to follow Turkish domestic policy as well. Without knowing Turkish domestic affairs, it's impossible to understand Turkish foreign policy. Most of the times, this domestic and foreign policies are engaged to each other. They are affiliated. They are wholly dependent to each other, and most of the times, domestic policy is shaping the foreign policy in Turkey. I'm talking about Turkey. So to understand the things in Syria from Turkish scope, you have to follow Turkish domestic issues as well. And that's my style.
Good. So thank you for having this
Very
talk,
much.
and we will be back.
Yeah, we will be back. I will post some things on my channel as well, and I will ask people to follow and see my comments. And thank you so much, man.
If you want to say how to watch the blog, the how to get there.
Yeah, my channel is called The Third Current. Maybe we can on the comments we can leave the channel. I don't know how we call it, like nickname or link for my channel. So people who are interested, they can click and they are welcome to my channel and my blog.
There will. Good.
Thank you.